This is Real Estate 360. I have the pleasure of having Doug Manz from HYM Investment Group. Doug, pleasure to have you here on this rainy Thursday afternoon.
Yes.
Yeah. We were just chatting, and you guys are really, in the forefront of things right now. You've got all these, fantastic projects going underway in downtown Boston and the immediate suburbs. Some are really, high visibility. In particular, Suffolk Downs right now. Exciting project for you guys.
Yep. Yeah, no, we've been excited. We've been around for 10 years now, and founded by Tom O'Brien, and I'm one of Tom's partners, and we love working on complicated mixed-use projects, particularly urban projects, and that's actually what led us to Suffolk Downs. We started looking for, kind of sites that were outside the downtown urban core,
right.
And we started looking at areas like Dorchester Avenue, but also in Chelsea and Revere and East Boston, and that's how we came across the 161-acre site.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I mean, the amount of growth that's gone on. I mean, for so many of us that have been in Boston for so many years, that area was very dormant for a long, long time. And just the fact that, with the additional growth around it, but what, you guys are doing there, and the level of investment that's going to come in over time, not only through your project but throughout the area. Everything from the retail, the transit-oriented nature of the project is it's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, because it was a horse track for so long, for 80 years. I mean, that's the only reason why there's 161 acres in East Boston.
Right.
And honestly, it's a rare find, and the fact that it already has 2 Blue Line stations today constructed right next to it, we're thrilled. And the Blue Line is one of the best lines in the MBTA system, has plenty of capacity, and we're looking forward to it. But our goal is definitely a mixed-use development district, and one that really reknits East Boston back into Revere, because today the racetrack really is almost a barrier between the two.
It really is.
Yeah, so it's a very exciting time.
And I was actually reading, I think you guys are going to try to keep a little bit of a theme of the former racetrack.
Correct, yeah. So there's 2 key things we're going to do. First, we've already, from our own perspective, decided to keep 25% of the space, of the land as open space. So we're going to have a 40-acre open space park system that'll be publicly accessible. So it's going to be a huge asset. But we're going to take a lot of the historical elements, so like the old racing pylons, the starting gates, the finish line. There's some horsehead flagpoles, to be honest.
Nice.
And we're going to incorporate that into the open space system. So we're going to definitely give a very strong nod to the history of the site.
Right.
But then, really kind of carried it into a new coastal-themed neighborhood, because really the scale of the site makes it a real neighborhood.
There's just so much going on. I mean, it's going to be a mixed-use development. Retail, commercial, probably apartments. Now, is that going to be phased in? What's the overall approach to the development?
Correct. Because the site is so large, 161 acres, I mean, give a sense that's probably as big as the North End. I mean, to just give you a sense of the scale of the site. It's almost a mile across.
I wouldn't have guessed that, so
yeah.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
That's a good perspective.
It's a very large site.
Yeah.
Definitely will be phased over probably 15 to 20 years, and that's without any bumps in the road type
Sure.
of thing. The one thing we are going to do, though, is that we're not going to be timid. Our first initial phase will be over 1.5 million square feet, about 5 buildings. One thing we learned, because we worked on North Point in East Cambridge, you can't be timid with sites like this. You really have to go in and create a critical mass, get street front retail going, and we're going to build from the T stations out. So we'll start either at Suffolk Downs stations or at Beachmont Station,
right, and
work our way in.
Unbelievable. So you've really got a lot. Now, let me ask, because obviously when you do these, these urban-based developments, there's a lot of input by, the local politicians, the city, the shop owners, the homeowners, everybody. How have you managed all that? Because that's a monumental task.
Yeah, so one thing that at HYM we always like to do is that we really like to get out into the community, and meet with anyone and everyone that we can. We have held a lot of community meetings, a lot of one-on-one meetings. There's actually several community groups both in East Boston as well as Revere. In some cases, we've met with community groups almost 2 or 3 times now. But the goal is really to kind of build consensus and get input from the community as we go through this process. And to be honest, we're going to be long-term owners of this, so we're going to be their neighbors for the next 20 years, and that's a lifetime.
That's a lifetime.
That's a lifetime. So for us, it's really important. The BPDA has actually been really helpful too as well with the City of Boston. I mean, they did their 2030 plan, so they had already designated Suffolk Downs as an appropriate site for a dense mixed-use development.
Right.
So they were thinking about this. Once the casino really was no longer an opportunity for this, Boston turned around and looked at it saying, we have few places that can really have dynamic new growth opportunities for the city. And particularly, we have a real opportunity to add a lot of housing too as well. So we could be up to 7,500 units of housing. On
That
the
many?
site. Yeah. So
I knew it was large. I
Yeah.
didn't think it was that many.
yeah. So and again, that's really
Fantastic.
transformative from our perspective.
Yeah, and we certainly know that, with the growth of the city, especially in that area, there's ample, amount, that there are a lot of people out there to absorb all of that housing.
Correct. And again, and being right on the blue line, I mean, we are 11-minute subway ride to State Street in downtown Boston. I mean, we are 4 minutes from the airport, if that. We're right on Route 1A, so we have direct connectivity to 93 North, South, and very easy access to the Mass Pike. So it's honestly, it's an incredibly well-located site, which, again, it just hasn't been in people's real estate mentality. I mean, it seems north of the city.
Yes.
It's really right next. It is part of the city, to be honest.
It really is. So in terms of, where are we in the development cycle from a permitting standpoint to, really, where do you see yourself a year from now, 5 years from now, and so on?
So we closed on the site at risk in May of 2017 with no permits or entitlements. We are probably...
That's a bold move.
It's a very bold move. I mean, it helped again that the city and the neighborhoods were already looking for it to be redeveloped into something special. So we are probably halfway through permitting at this point. So we've gone through our initial filings with the city of Boston and the state. We just recently had zoning approved in the city of Revere. So of the 161 acres, 52 acres is in Revere, 109 acres is actually in Boston. So we're actually permitting in 2 cities as well as the Commonwealth at the same time. So a very complicated project. Our goal is that we'll probably be in permitting through the end of this year. We hope to be approved by the end of this year. And we want to have our first phase under construction by summer of next year. And that'll be, again, about over 1.5 million square feet. After that, it'll really be kind of over phases.
Sure.
And, but hopefully in 10 years, we would love to see built out from both T stations and connected within the site already. And so that the first core neighborhood has really been formed, and then we will continue to build out from there.
Exciting stuff. So let's switch gears for 1 minute, because that's not the only exciting project that you're doing from Boston, participating in Boston Landing and a whole host of other projects, developments. I like to use the term developments, and you guys are at the forefront doing some of the more exciting developments in downtown Boston right now.
Yeah, so one of the most exciting ones we have going on right now is the Government Center Garage. So we've been working on this project. These projects take a long time. We've been working on this since 2010, but it's the redevelopment of the Government Center Garage. We actually have broken ground on a 46-story high-rise residential tower that is 55 condos and 386 residential units. So 46 stories. That'll be starting now, be completed in summer of 2020.
Okay.
And then
who's the contractor on that?
So that's Tishman Construction.
Oh, it is Tishman.
Yep, Tishman Construction. Yep. And then the next phase of that project is a 1 million square foot office building, which we are advancing through design as we speak. It's fully permanent approved, so the whole project's permanent approved. But the big thing about that project is that we're actually going to tear down half the Government Center Garage.
Right, I read that.
We're going to daylight for the Congress Street for the first time in 50 years.
I was going to say at least 50 years.
At least 50 years.
Yeah.
And then what we call the East Parcel, which is where the Haymarket Station is right now, becomes really a dynamic mixed-use setting with 3 buildings that kind of complete the Bullfinch Triangle and becomes the bookend to what Boston Properties is doing over at TD Garden. So it's a very exciting project.
It's interesting. I was at the Bruins game a few nights ago. Unfortunately, one of the nights they lost.
Last night was much better.
Last night was much better. But it's amazing. Anywhere that you go in the city of Boston, irrespective of, I've been here my whole life, but I am amazed by it, on almost every corner, if you can remember what it was and what it is now, the amount of transformation that's gone on. Now, we're talking specifically over by TD Garden. I'm just amazed by what's going on in that whole particular area right there.
Yeah, no, again, when the Central Artery came down, the other green monster that we have, complete transformation from the city, perspective. And it is amazing to see the growth that we've seen. And again, not just in downtown Boston, South Boston, Chelsea. There's a lot of things that are happening right now, which is amazing.
Right. You talk about the green monster. I remember years ago when I was just getting into the business with my family, we actually owned, when the green monster was up, or the whatever you describe that, we had properties over on the other side by the north end, and it was, unfortunately back then we were trapped by the green monster.
That's right.
And when that came down, then all the real estate over there, certainly came into its own. Lovejoy Wharf and some of the other, fantastic projects that are going up over there right now. But it's just amazing what, and I know we're going back years now, but that whole area and what that has done in the, the beltway through the city. It's just the amount of positive new growth. The mayor, whether it's from Menino, to our current mayor, the vision they've had, fantastic developers like yourselves, the amount of great stuff that's happening. I mean, it's just a fantastic time to be developing and living in the city of Boston.
No, I think Boston's going through an incredible renaissance. I mean, again, everyone wants to be here, wants to live here, not just millennials, also, empty nesters, and the amount of, development and diversity that's been happening in the city of Boston has been honestly incredible from our perspective.
Yeah. Well, listen, I really appreciate you coming on our Real Estate 360. I commend you on the projects that you're doing. They're very ambitious. You guys have a fantastic track record and history, and I wish you every success.
I appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me.